Thank you for coming down. I really appreciate it, supporting the show. So, Coach Grimmy, the owner of Sisu Fitness Centre. We met like 5 years ago. You probably remember when I cycled down one Sunday to the open gym you was running at the time, and I signed up to your gym, and we've sort of got to know each other a lot since then. Been away together, lots of time talking, and first time just sticking it on record. I'm grateful for you coming on. We're going to dig into a bit of your story and see how you got to where you are and the mechanics behind that. But you've also sort of agreed to do future stuff and be the official coach of the show. So hopefully we'll get into some of that in a future episode. There's lots to talk about, really, and I want to sort of lean into your journey of finding yourself through multiple chapters of life. And this come from me thinking about preparing for this show and remembering that you said something once about people come into your life and out of your life because parts of your life are chapters, and some people aren't meant to be there for every chapter. And I was really thinking about that, and I thought, let's explore Matt's life through the chapters of his life. So I think we'll get going into that in a minute. On a more personal note, I want to just sort of thank you for providing the gym, the space for people to find themselves. It's quite a nice community to be a part of, and it's somewhere where my own personal journey in not just fitness but self-development and trying to be a better me has really taken hold. Finding fitness was the first time I got drawn away from being just completely embedded in work.
Yeah.
And since then, I have challenged myself to so much more. And it was that day 5 years ago cycling down to see the gym, mate. So
yeah, and I completely agree. Like, the amount I've seen you grow since we've known each other. When you first cycled up to the gym, as you said, with Vicky, apparently she did think I was a dick as well. She goes, I thought you was a dick before I joined. And then Jack said, look, we're going to go down, we're going to join. And he joined up, and obviously we've been on that wild journey ever since. Yeah,
it's great, mate. And we'll take the next sort of 60 to 90 minutes and try and make sure that people don't think you're a dick.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So at this stage, how long have you worked in the fitness industry?
I've been active in the fitness industry officially, I think, I'm trying to work out how old I am now as well. Probably getting close to 15 years, just about.
Okay. So this wasn't your first job?
No, not at all.
You've come to fitness like later in life?
Yeah. If you asked me when I was like 13, 14, 15, I wouldn't think I'd be in this position where I am at the moment. Not anywhere close.
Okay. So this wasn't your intention. So you're not here fulfilling your original life's purpose. So where did you start?
So like growing up, it was quite a comfortable situation growing up, mum, dad, everything like that. Was into sport as a kid, wasn't necessarily like the most outstanding athlete, as it were. Really enjoyed like PE at school and things like that, but no aspiration to go down that avenue.
You're not
whatsoever.
playing like county level sports or?
No, absolutely. I was like the left back in football. I was the right-footed left back.
Right.
Playing football, they just thought, stick Grimmy in left back and see what he does. So yeah, it was never like the athlete as well. And I think where life probably get in the first chapter of change, which definitely set the course of changing my direction at that point, when I was 12 or 13, my mum and dad broke up. And I think that I took that quite hard.
Okay.
At that point. Like up to that point, a very, three of us, mum, dad, everything's cool, and then a complete life change.
Okay, so how did that change your life? They obviously separate, start living apart.
Sharing
time between them.
Yeah, really seeing my dad. So I kind of missed that father figure when I was, especially in my teens, when I really looked for a father figure. My mum did a fantastic job of bringing us up, like amazing. But never having that father figure to push me with stuff.
not just sports, but that traditionally has always been a role filled by dad in the conventional family, isn't it?
Yeah. And it definitely pushed me down, I would say not the wrong route, because I was never like the naughtiest kid at school, but I would do stuff like skip class a lot. Like even with my secondary school, I think the highest grade I got was a D.
Okay.
Like, and that was in PE, like, because I was okay at sport. But definitely sent me down a spiral of, not attending school, hanging out the wrong crowd a little bit, especially in that sort of like late teens, got involved in more like drugs and things like that.
You've got out of sport at this stage. You're not playing
not at all.
Sunday league football, anything like that.
Yeah. Went on to like sixth form, didn't bother with that, left after a year. And just went through random jobs.
Yeah.
Random, manual jobs, things like roofing.
So winding that back just a little bit before we run too far. You say you mentioned the wrong crowds and drugs. This is more like adolescent misdemeanor than anything else, yeah? Yeah. We're not talking banged up at 16 or anything like that, no.
Not going like prison or anything like that.
No,
but,
good.
We was hanging around the streets, in Medway.
Less than favourable conditions.
Yeah, like taking drugs, getting up to all sorts, but nothing like criminal. I suppose that is criminal, but nothing like breaking in people's houses or anything. Yeah.
Okay, so you move on from there. Again, you're sort of on this journey of finding yourself. You're pushing the boundaries. Maybe like a young man from a broken home would. Do you think having your dad more present at that stage might have put a bit of a cap or a ceiling on that behaviour? Yeah,
definitely. Just having that guidance through life a little bit. Just struggled where to go. I mean, my mum is the loveliest person, but I remember like I was at a point where I was doing judo. I really got into judo, and I was like maybe about 12, 13, and I was like dominating this judo scene, like really took a shine to the sport. Soon as I got to that age, they started putting me fighting like men, like blokes that are like 30, 40, and I was just getting the shit kicked out of me. And then I just said to Mum, I'm just dropping out. I'm not doing it anymore. And my mum, just sweet as she is like, yeah, cool, no, whatever.
Okay, darling.
Yeah, do what you like, it's cool. But then looking back, I kind of needed that little push to kind of go, no, you're sticking with this.
We do tough stuff in life.
Yeah, exactly that.
Okay, that's important. That's a lot of character forming behaviour when you have to stick at stuff, when you have to work through the hard points to get the payoff of reaping what you sow from the hard work. And it's something I can sympathise with, but from a completely different perspective. I played a lot of sport as a kid, but I wasn't made to do hard stuff all that much. When I was done with football, I was done with football. When I was done with cricket, a little bit later in life, I was done with cricket. And to me, that attitude that I had, because I came from a good home with a good upbringing. I went to a good school, so life wasn't hard. I didn't get challenged with stuff. I didn't have to bite down and show tenacity. I was skating through. It's not a surprise I ended up fat.
I've seen the pictures.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's not a surprise I ended up fat because I couldn't make hard decisions. I couldn't challenge myself. I couldn't work my way out of these situations. And it took until my late 20s to really make that decision to change my life and to start doing harder things. Even when I got to work, it wasn't overly hard for me. I didn't work overly hard until I got sort of 24, 25. And that was when I started to see the benefit of working hard. And that is something that I get to enjoy now. I get to train hard. I get to work hard. I get to live the life I want to live because I'm putting in that work. And I think if I'd been a bit more of a disciplined youngster, just same for you, you're a disciplined guy now. You work hard on building your business, but what would Matt that had stuck at judo at 13, 14 have done?
Yeah, I mean, even when I speak to, like some of our coaches and even people who are a bit younger, And, you know, they might be 21, 22, and they're really grafting at that age. Or they're doing things like, I don't know, I wouldn't even think about them, like having a mortgage and all these really adult, really, you know, progressive things they're doing. And I thought, I wasn't even thinking that at that time. And maybe being at like maybe about 28, just like you, 28, 30, and then finally thinking, right, I'm going to get stuck into this as well. I don't know what situation, if it would be any different, or maybe that was just the right time and place for that to happen, maybe.
What do you think is different for these younger guys you're talking about? Where are they getting their drive, their motivation? Is, you know, I don't want to imply that they're getting this Instagram hustle culture that's making them push, but I agree. They seem to be an overly driven generation of people that know what they want, particularly in a world of a generation. They are the people in a generation that don't know what they want. The people that want things for free, the people that, you know, the stereotypical Gen Zers and millennials that you know, are trying to have things handed to them and things aren't coming to. I know that's a stereotype, but these people we're talking about exist very much outside that stereotype. So what do you think it is that's got to them and driven it?
I think nowadays there's more avenues to make money. I think we live in a very entrepreneurial world at the moment, where back in our day growing up, you know, you get a job, you go to work, you get paid. You might get a promotion, but there's no aspiration to go beyond that. You know, my mum and dad have always worked for other people. So this whole entrepreneur thing doesn't come very naturally to me, which people might find quite surprising almost as well. But even I remember as a kid, not being like the most athletic person, I was always like, enjoyed being a facilitator of things. So I would try and be the captain or try and set things up. I always quite enjoyed putting things together rather than being the guy, as it were.
Took leadership roles quite early on.
Yeah,
I did as well.
Yeah.
Quite similar.
But going back to your question, I think as, like I say, people can earn more money just through anything now. You know, people can earn money doing like OnlyFans.
Yeah.
People can earn money setting up a Shopify account and selling T-shirts. Like, you think 20 years ago, that wasn't a thing. No,
yeah. Like, I don't remember people leaving school to be T-shirt designers and, you know, let alone be, you know, self-supplying these T-shirts and things like that. So I guess that kind of makes sense. The wide-scale adoption of the internet in our lifetime has opened up opportunities to people who are there to make the most of them. And it will be those people slightly younger than us that are best placed to make good on those opportunities.
Yeah, and I think even going back to like social media, it's more visible that, or the perception, people are doing really well for themselves at a young age, whether they're selling crypto or, you know, currency exchange or whatever it may be. Well, back in our day, you might just know one or two people that were very successful, maybe a friend's dad or something.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't, we didn't have as much exposure. I mean, I used to just go on the internet and look at like cats playing piano or something.
Yeah, we used the internet properly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from getting through the troubled adolescent time into sixth form, you said you didn't finish sixth form?
Yeah, didn't finish. It was kind of one of the things, you finish school, didn't know what I wanted to do, done, I can't even remember what I even done at sixth form, what even subject I chose. Dropped out of that, done a few little random jobs, done a bit of lifeguarding, which probably was like the first little sprinkle of working in, let's say, leisure or fitness. Really enjoyed that job, really fun job. But got the allure of, you know, like going on site, earning money, doing a manual job, and was like a roofer.
Right, okay.
And I'm not going to lie to you, Jack, I was like the worst roofer in the world.
Not your gig.
I remember this one job, I was always like someone's mate. I was never like the person in charge of the roof. I just dug holes and stuff. Like it was like the most basic Joey job going. And I remember I got put in charge of this roof in like London. It was a small roof. And it was, the whole thing was my responsibility. And I thought, right, I'm going to really prove myself here. Like, I'm going to do this. And I remember laying this roof and it was all like glass fibre. So I laid this roof and I was really proud of it. I thought, I've done this roof. The guy come round to check it, tick it off, peeled up the whole roof. There was no primer on it, nothing. And I was like, I'm done with this.
Right.
And even at maybe like talking around that sort of time, this was a time when I was like smoking 20 to 30 fags a day, drinking like Red Bulls, beers every night, double takeaway days, everything. I looked terrible and I felt terrible at that time.
Solid level of health. So what was that? Gives us a bit of an insight into what your health was like, and probably your respect for yourself. But what was your mindset and your attitude like? You're doing a job that you don't love, so you don't love it, but you still had that little inkling in your head that said, I want to do this. I'm in charge of this roof. I want to do it right. So what was your approach to life like then?
I mean, then if I think about it, I pretty much, I thought day to day. I didn't think of like bigger picture where I'm going to be in 5 years.
Living for the weekend approach.
Living for the weekend, exactly that. Going to the pub during the week and stuff, like living as and when now. And I was at the time. I was probably sort of quite happy actually in a weird way. I was, I didn't really think about much else, just about going out the weekend with mates, blah 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 blah. And it was a turning point, and I had this picture taken me of a night out. And I remember that I got the exact picture in my head as well. And I remember when someone uploaded it, I think it was like MySpace then.
Right, okay. Yeah, to put a date on it.
And I remember looking at this picture and I thought, my God, what have you turned into?
What was wrong with the picture? What was it that you didn't like?
I was just overweight. I was doing something I probably deep down knew I wasn't truly happy with. And it almost comes to that point of like, do I want to carry on like this for the rest of my life?
Okay. So the Matt at this inflection point, drinking, eating badly, exercise at all, or just the minimum job? Okay.
Nothing, zero.
Drugs?
Drugs, plenty of drugs.
Good ones or the real ones?
The real ones.
The real ones,
the real
okay.
ones, the proper ones.
All right. But social, this never crosses a line for you?
No.
Good. And what's your instant reaction to this photo?
I need to do something about myself.
What did you do?
So I started off, believe it or not, you might not think this is real. I started going running.
Okay.
So I started running.
I thought when you said you didn't think it's real, I thought you were going to say Weight Watchers.
So basically, working in London, it was like, quite long days, like, like 5 a.m. till like 7 o'clock at night. And I remember every night I was get home, done a 20-minute run every day. And I think I've done this run must be like 3-4 months at this point.
That's a hell of a consistency.
And it was like during like February evenings and stuff.
Yeah, you got to really want it.
Yeah. And I got to this point of like lost a fair bit of weight. And then I started feeling like, a bit more confident about how I looked. And I was, almost like a bit more proud of who I was. And this led me to actually join a gym.
Okay. How old are you at this point?
I am around 21.
Okay,
21.
early 20s.
Yeah.
You still roofing at this stage?
Still roofing at this point.
Yeah.
And remember joining this gym. Never really done sort of any weight training or anything like that before. Got into the gym, absolutely loved it.
Okay.
I just felt like I had a natural ability to understand exercises, how to execute them, and just love the environment. And I remember being up there and people thought I worked there. And then people come and ask me for advice. And, I was probably one of them gym bros who gave that advice, unsolicited advice, probably not the most professional advice. And, then I started thinking, have I thought about, going into like personal training, actually doing this? And then soon as I got that thought in my head, it was just that another sort of change in my life.
Okay. And does that change anything about the rest of your life? So you've got yourself into shape, you've got a bit of confidence behind you. Has that changed who you're hanging around with, what you're doing in your spare time? Are you still getting to the pub? You're just running it off?
So start ditching things like the pub a little bit.
Okay.
Start taking fitness a little bit more seriously. But yeah, certainly not ditching out completely.
Okay, yeah. Life's still in session.
Yeah, still in your early 20s, all your mates are going out.
Yeah.
The crowd does change a little bit as well. A lot of the guys who I used to do roofing with, there'd be part of a football team, there'd be a pub, that kind of thing. It's switched a little bit, like when you start working with people, they almost become your friends because you see them more than...
You spend all day with them.
Exactly. Then went on to get like personal training qualification. took a massive pay cut when I started working in the gym.
Yeah.
I was like, well, this is like...
So your style of training at this point, is it like bodybuilding style?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Just very generic. I think one thing, obviously, like gaining confidence, losing weight, you almost do get quite addicted to how you look, especially being a young man.
And you start adding the knowledge from this PT qualification, so that levels up your training again?
Levels up my training, go to other gyms, learn things, just a thirst for knowledge when it comes to sort of like bodybuilding. And like I said, you want to always, when you're early 20s, like you want to impress girls and stuff like that. So obviously you want to look good.
Big key motivation for you there.
Yeah. Okay. Especially early 20s, you're out and about and start putting on a bit of muscle, you lose weight, you start to feel great about yourself. I'm sure you can.
Getting ready for lads' holidays.
Yeah.
You want to.
It's like when you lost weight, did that sort of comprehend in your head at first, or did you still feel overweight?
I still feel overweight. My weight's still a battle, a continuous one. I shy from hard work, so I have to deliberately subject myself to it. So I try to keep things on the calendar to keep me accountable. It's high rocks, Spartan, half marathons, CrossFit comps, anything like that, because I spent too long neglecting it, and I can fall back into old habits quite quickly. And with weight loss, it takes a lot longer to lose it than it does to gain it. Now, I know you don't gain it back overnight with one bad day, but one bad day becomes one bad week becomes one bad month.
Yeah.
Then it affects your performance. Then you lose interest in your training. And that is something that's happened to me. And I'm not prepared for that to happen again. I used to think I was doing fine because I was playing football, but I was a goalkeeper. I wouldn't warm up because I wouldn't run the width of the pitch. I look back now and I think, I can't believe I was that fat and lazy. Same as you. I had a photo that changed my world. I didn't believe it. I saw this photo. I was holding my cousin's baby, and I thought, that's a bad angle.
The camera and 10 pounds, surely. Yeah.
And I thought, not a chance. And I then got another photo 4 days later, and I was like, okay, I'm in serious trouble here. And then I paused and looked back at that time, and I was socially, I was wearing shirts and jumpers and chinos and things like that. And I thought, no, I like dressing smart. No, I was dressing in clothes that fitted, and it was a horrible time, a horrible realization. And I came from this position of, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to lose this weight. I don't know much about training. Didn't really know much about functional fitness or CrossFit at the time. And I just leaned to what I knew. And for me, that was, I got to give up junk food. And the only way I can do that is to say, I've got to give up meat and dairy. Because I was a sucker for it. And I lived by what I heard Rich Roll call the window diet. If you can roll down your window and they can hand it to you, that's what I ate. So cutting meat and dairy out really, really helped me. It really limited what I could eat, and I started to feel good. My issues then came when the world adopted veganism.
And you become a vegan. Quote unquote.
And the world adopts veganism, and McDonald's develop a vegan burger, and
Burger King one's better.
It is. Yeah. And that's the problem, is now all of a sudden I can eat from my window again. So the challenge is back on, but I'm now so much better equipped to deal with it. I know a lot more about how to stay healthy, when I can see my health slipping a little bit, I know it's time to dial it back and get back on.
I think as well, if you've ever been overweight or very self-conscious, that's always in the back of your head as well.
Yeah,
always.
I mean, did you suffer with it growing up? Or was it just later in your life?
I think a little bit later in life as well. I think it was when life got a little bit out of control.
Right.
Especially like when you start working, you start earning your own money. Things like sweets aren't just a weekend thing. Takeaways aren't just a weekend thing. You're like, I've got the money. I'm going to get a McDonald's every day. But yeah, I think as soon as you've been there, it's always in the back of your head. It's easily reversible.
Yeah, and I feel for any kid that's growing up overweight. I had it at periods in my life, and there is stuff, not that I want to change because it's what makes who you are, but there are parts of my teenage years that would have been easier if I'd had the discipline or the understanding that I have now. So yeah, it does stay with you.
And I think as well, like even going back to when, I was training in the gym, losing weight, there was still elements of being very sort of self-conscious and unconfident.
Yeah.
And even like what quote unquote being in shape, whatever that means to anyone, people go, oh, you're incredible shape. But then you almost haven't got that confidence and you're still very like, I could easily lose it if I stop right now. And it almost becomes quite addictive.
Addictive.
Yeah.
So you're starting to train, you're balancing your social life a bit better. Mm-hmm. Still smoking?
Maybe at that point, yes, when I probably started being a PT, definitely.
Okay. So eventually you throw in the towel on roofing and commit full time to PT. Is that the end of a chapter?
I would say so, because then, like I say, I'm very much like in the gym. I'm kind of where I want to be. I feel this is like, okay, I enjoy the lifestyle of being in the gym. But don't get me wrong, there was a whole different other lifestyle as well on top of that.
Okay, we'll pick at that in just a second then. So you're leaving this character behind, this character that played out this first chapter of, the less healthy lifestyle, the less ambitious?
Less ambitious, definitely,
yeah.
It's fair to say.
And probably a young man dealing with the after effects of, a breakup in the family. You're now a young man starting a life of your own. You're the captain of your own ship, and you start to steer it in the way you want. But from what you said, it sounds like every young driver steers off the road a little bit.
Most definitely, yeah.
So
I've definitely had more accidents than straight lines.
So these coming years, you're working as a PT, but tell me about the whole other life on top of that.
Okay, so at this point, I'm in a position I enjoy when it comes to work, but get a little bit more heavily involved in bodybuilding, and this actually leads me down the route of taking anabolic steroids.
Why?
I think it was down to the whole confidence thing as well.
So you've built this confidence up,
yeah,
and then it's an addiction to
Most definitely.
people telling you look good?
Most definitely.
Or do you feel small?
I think there's a bit of bigorexia there as well, but you always want to be better. I want to be leaner. I want to be bigger.
Are you training around guys that are bigger?
Yeah, definitely. Going to bodybuilding gyms that I don't work at, seeing bigger guys lift more, have big legs, big arms, everything.
So how long do you kick this idea around before you're like, I'm going to jump on the juice, or is you quite easily persuaded?
Yeah, pretty much straight away.
Wow.
I make the decision in my head, this is what I'm going to do. I remember.
How did you rationalise that to yourself in your head? What was your reasoning?
I don't think there was any reason, to be honest, Jack. I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to compete in bodybuilding, and I'm going to be good at it.
Everyone that competes in bodybuilding has to do this.
Yeah, 100%. It almost comes with the culture. You surround yourself with people who are openly taking steroids.
You gave yourself a pass on it because
normal.
of it.
Yeah, it's obviously illegal, but it's not that illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal. It's banned in competitive sports, but it's not.
Yeah, any pro bodybuilding show.
It's not one of these life-ruining drugs like the Class A's out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember even when I bought my first vial of like testosterone, I remember I was shit scared at injecting it. I had no idea what I'm doing. And I had to go around this guy's house and he had to do it for me.
So you get a testosterone mentor. Okay.
Yeah, just find one. There's loads of testosterone gurus out there. And all these guys that sell them haven't really got a clue of how good the gear is, or really dosages and things like that. It was just almost a bit of guesswork then as well.
Okay. So does it come in controlled? Is it a controlled substance?
It's a very black market.
Okay.
It's very black market steroids, different brands. I think nowadays there are more sort of pharmaceutical brands out there, but then it was like a Wild West.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember going around this guy's house and just getting injected for the first few times, trying to build up the courage to like do it myself. And at this point, it was a secret, obviously, from my mum at that point and whatnot. But obviously, you know, guys at the gym openly spoke about it all as well.
You're one of the guys now.
One of the dudes.
Okay. So let's look at that a little bit then. So you go through. Do you cycle testosterone, or is it something you're always on?
So you can do what's called a blast and cruise. This is where you do like a low dosage over a longer period of time. Most people cycle on it for, you know, like 8 to 16 weeks. I didn't really have a clue really what I was doing then. I'd just done it all year round.
So you just load up on juice.
Load up.
And how does that go for you?
If I'm being completely honest, yeah, it was probably one of the best training years of
jacked,
my life.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like anyone who says that on anabolic steroids and don't enjoy training is an absolute liar. It's the best training experience ever. And I got to a point of like really getting addicted to how this felt. And don't get me wrong, there was another side of my life where I was still out partying at the weekend as well. And I decided I'm going to do like a bodybuilding show. I thought, right, this is the time now. I've done this for a couple of years. I'm going to do a bodybuilding show.
It's the ends to justify the means.
Exactly. Yeah. Because people used to say in the gym, oh, there's no point doing gear if you're not going to compete. What are you doing it for?
Okay.
Well, deep down, I probably know I'm doing it for like my own self-confidence, look good when I go out and things like that. But then I have to do the bodybuilding show to almost justify me taking that. And I remember getting this bodybuilding coach. And looking back, I mean, it wasn't a bodybuilding coach. He was basically a drug dealer.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember he giving me a list of like, take this, absolutely crazy amounts. But like, you know, when you get a mentor or a coach, do what the coach says.
Yeah. You're paying them for their advice.
That's it. And I remember taking all these substances, and it completely altered my personality. Like completely.
So what changed?
So there's this drug called Trenbolone. And I don't know if you've heard of Trenbolone before.
Is it Tren?
Tren, yeah. And it turns you into a different person. You become, you think, you know, people talking about you become constantly paranoid.
Paranoia.
It's the worst feeling ever. And it does destroy all, like, your relationships. I remember having, like, girlfriends at the time, and I was a terrible boyfriend back then. Absolutely abysmal.
And it was affecting you socially as well?
Socially, mixing, going out still at this point, taking substances on nights out still with that.
Okay.
Looking back, it was
mixing performance drugs and social drugs.
It was an absolute mess.
Okay.
Back then, like absolute mess.
And do you do the show?
No.
Okay.
No.
So how do you justify the continued use of it to yourself?
Well, I got to the point of, you know, cycling up all these drugs about 6 weeks out of the show. I remember driving to my girlfriend's house at this point. I remember going around the roundabout. It was about 10 o'clock at night when I finished PTing. I remember turning around the corner, and I remember just completely blacking out. I remember the car just span, and it was this brand new Audi A3. Bear in mind, I got on tick as well. It was like my first real status car.
Your first German car.
First German whip, yeah. So I was really proud of it. Remember, I got into this coughing fit. I remember going around a roundabout and just completely just blacked out. Woke up facing the wrong way, and I thought, what the fuck? At this point, I was like 100 plus kilos. Remember, like snoring, having breathing issues, really bad like acne on your back, all the sort of like typical symptoms of like, you know, steroid abuse.
Yeah.
Plus, on top of taking recreational drugs at the weekend, it completely just ruined your mind.
So you decide to get out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Cool.
At that point.
There's no lasting like desire for it.
No.
How do you deal with the fact that in your head you must be thinking, I'm going to deflate?
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
Because especially in social situations, like you just take yourself away from them bodybuilding gyms at that time, which I did. So you don't have that. But definitely when you're on nights out, when people go, oh, I used to be bigger. And you're like, you know, you laugh it off, but you think deep down you are dying inside.
That's getting you.
Yeah, that is cutting you deep. So that was probably one of the hardest things, and not to mention what it does to your body after you just stop taking steroids. Natural production of testosterone goes downhill. So, you know, your libido's like rock bottom. You've got no desire to train. And when you're so used to training assisted and like, oh, let's go up 10 kilos on bench press every single week for like 8 weeks. That doesn't happen when you're not assisted.
You got a new expectation to manage in terms of performance.
Exactly.
So what does this period of time do to Matt Grimshaw?
So this at this time, even with my career as a personal trainer, I was plodding along. You know, a couple clients, had a right client base, but, you know, it just served the purpose. Then I was quite into like the bodybuilding and going out still. So the job was always secondary to that. Just facilitate.
It was lifestyle funding.
That's it. Still in the same position really as I was back then as well, just slightly different.
No personal growth.
No.
It was all about how we looked and getting on it.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so now you're not looking the way you used to look. You're still getting on it.
Yep.
You've totaled your A3.
Yeah.
What does the next stage from there do to you? If you're out in the world, concerned that you're not looking as big, sex drives in the floor. What are you doing?
So this leads me down to really like quite life-changing paths as well. One of them was going into CrossFit.
Okay.
So coming out of the bodybuilding world, you know, if you're not going to that extreme, I don't just want to be the regular gym dude on the chest press doing his 4 sets of 10. So I had to pull myself away from that. So I actually signed up for like my first CrossFit class and absolutely died. It was humbling.
Good. Yeah, that happens to everyone.
I remember the first workout, it was like 15 kettlebell swings, 15 box jumps, 5 rounds for time.
Simple.
Yeah.
Not easy.
Yeah. And I remember it being so humbling, but so addictive.
Okay. So that's a positive moment. You're like, I want more of this. And generally what comes with CrossFit is the desire to do so well that you either start cheating, which I think you know at this stage you're saying, I'm done with cheating. Yeah, like that. No more drugs for me. And it sort of, okay, now I need to dial myself in. And that's when you start getting hold of bits in your personal life.
Yeah.
Does that happen for you?
Yeah, so around this sort of time as well, I remember I used to train a guy and he was a photocopier salesman. And he was like, 5-6 years younger than me. I remember him telling me, oh, my company give me this car. It's like a brand new Mercedes. And he's like, oh yeah, I get a basic of, like 40 grand a year, but I get about 40, 50 grand in bonuses. I was like, wow, selling photocopiers? He's like, yeah. He's like, you should apply for a job. So I remember I couldn't write a CV at this point. So I actually paid a company to write me a CV. And I remember submitting the CV, having the interview, getting the job. Thought, wow, I can do this. And then just about when I was to hand my notice in at the gym, I just thought, I can't see myself doing this. I really can't.
So the allure to the other job was the money?
Yeah, it was money initially. But then I thought to myself, if I'm driving around the M25, popping into offices, selling photocopiers, that's just not what I want to do. And
at this point, was it clear to you that PTing was?
Yeah, I thought, look, if I'm going to turn down this job, I've got to go 100% of this.
So this is you deciding to level up.
Yeah.
Start pushing your career. This will be the first time you've really focused on a career?
Yeah, 100%. And this is around sort of 27, 28.
Okay.
When I thought, right, we are going full steam with this.
So what do you do next? Is this another turning point? Is this another chapter?
Most definitely.
So what do you leave behind in that chapter other than, not half-assing your job, but, going through the motions with it? Are you still carrying the social side with you?
So at this point, the social side is still there, but then changing friendship groups a little bit, moving away from some people, connected to sort of that world, especially the bodybuilding side. And this is a little bit more transitional with going out, started cutting off that a little bit, start focusing a little bit more on building a business.
Okay. Are you moving away from... I've got a photo in my head.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of place it on this timeline.
Yeah, go on.
And it's Matt Grimshaw, body's in check, so we can work out it's after that period. And it seems to resonate to me with the wanting the watches and the cars, and you're holding the 2 bottles of vodka in the VIP.
Yeah.
Where does this fit in?
That's an old Facebook picture. I think if you scroll like 8 pictures back, that maybe is the picture. But I think at that point, when I really started focusing on, my career a little bit more, started naturally earning more money. I did something back then that no one was really doing back then, and that was creating social media content. No other PTs in our local area were putting out any videos of them talking to camera. And, you watch people like Joe Wicks and James Smith, especially James Smith at the start doing it, and you think, I need to do something very similar to stand out. And then you suddenly start doing that, and, back then you're getting like thousands and thousands of views of video.
And that turns into generating income for you? Generating
income.
Okay.
People wanting to work with me, at that point, you're doing like 40, 50 hours a week on the gym floor. And just your books are full, you've got waiting lists for people, everything. And then with that comes buying nice watches, 2 bottles of Grey Goose, I think it is.
Do you think you've made it?
I think I've made it by then.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got... What do you think of that now?
Yeah. I mean, looking back at that time, I thought I made it. But then I thought everything was just so superficial.
All the big time Charlie stuff.
All the big time, yeah.
It's fine. Like, everyone will have that stage in their life, and most things you have to do to know if you like them or not. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying some of your success along the way. But if you look back and you think of potentially the time and money you put into things like that, in your position now, you're like, that's capital. It's not just, financial capital, it's time and effort capital that could have been using to some other ends in terms of building your business or building your brands and things like that. So did that continue for a long time? The party boy, the pretty boy, was that part of the brand for you?
I think that was like being known as the guy. I think, like, say, being successful, at what I'd done. I took a lot of pride of what I'd done as well. I took a lot of pride of, there's probably, for being honest, there's a lot of ego there as well. Always wanted to be the best.
Okay.
If anyone wants to, if people in the local area want to work with me, they only want to work with me. I like to make sure of that.
I'd say that's a character that's a part of character that's atypical of someone that would have taken steroids. I want to be the best.
Yeah.
It's hand in hand, chasing of that feeling.
Yeah. But like I said, when the money come in, it went straight out.
Right, okay.
I mean, at the time, we're thinking quite a few years ago, I mean, as a one-to-one sole trader, personal trainer, you're earning between $6,000 and $8,000 a month. And for a local personal trainer, where you're having to drive to 10 minutes to work every day is insane.
Yeah, this is a level of success you haven't had yet in your life, and you're enjoying it as a young man would. So how long do you ride that rodeo? So
I ride that rodeo for a good few years.
Yeah, have fun?
Yeah, great fun.
Yeah.
At that time as well. Your late 20s, your 30s, you feel like you're at your peak, you feel like you're doing, life well, and you're reaping the rewards, and you think, right, this is it.
How much of a comeback do these social drugs make?
Yeah, a lot. I think at that point it was started taking its toll. I mean, it did naturally calm down a little bit as maybe get in relationships when you're in your late 20s. It becomes a little bit
going out as much.
Becomes a bit more civilized, dinner parties, overnights out, and things like that. But at that point, it was still, even though I was in a relationship, it was still very separate relationships. Boys' night, girls' night, that kind of thing.
Okay. But that relationship keeps you somewhat on the straight and narrow and keeps you focused on career, or
not so much. I think it was very much down to myself being very focused on on the career as well. I mean, being a personal trainer is very, very unsociable hours.
Yeah.
You know, you're in the gym at 6 a.m, you work up till like lunchtime, little bit of a weird lull during the day, and then you work until, 9, 10 o'clock every single night.
So that can take its toll on a relationship. Yeah,
most definitely.
So what is it? Is it still ego that's driving this part of your career?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's what led me on to the next step,
which is
opening a gym.
So is that at this point you're thinking, I want more?
Yeah.
I want to... What are you thinking? I want more money? Or...
At that time, I did think to myself, when I was doing this for a few years, I thought, if I get into my late 30s, early 40s, and I've still got to do this amount of hours to earn this amount of money, I'm just going to burn out.
Okay.
Because don't get me wrong, like at that time, even in your late 20s, when you're full of beans, like you're knackered, you're snapping during the day, out and about the weekend, it does take its toll on you a few years down the line. And then thinking about how can this business be actually scalable, and that led me to kind of push to get the idea of the concept of my own gym.
At this point, have you discovered what you really want from life?
Yeah, I think at that point, working wise, I really wanted a career within fitness. Yeah. Something that wasn't going to be like I get to 35 and I change careers completely. I wanted the longevity of working in the fitness industry.
Okay. And so you decide to set up a business.
Yeah. So what gave me the idea is, partly because, had the way CrossFit's formatted in like the sort of like group training format. I really enjoyed being part of a group and train together, the community aspect, everything. And my girlfriend at the time, she belonged to a CrossFit gym. She come home in a bad mood one day. I said, "What's wrong?" She's like, "Oh, we spent an hour learning how to do like muscle ups and handstands or whatever, and I just wanted to work out." I thought, okay, so taking a little bit of the sort of group format, and I'm thinking, how can we make that really accessible to maybe everyday people who just want to come in,
get a sweat on,
lift some weights, nothing too technical. And then that led down the route of looking for, investors, and then, eventually opening the gym.
So you decide to start a business from scratch. Yeah, you're not from, like you said, you wasn't from an entrepreneurial family.
Nope.
You're like, I'm going to go and do this. And you elect not to follow a tried and tested method like a CrossFit franchise. You like, let's go and do this on my own. And like you said, you seek investors. How hard was that?
I think looking back, there was a certain degree of arrogance.
It's a big time Charlie knew what he was doing.
100%.
Okay.
Like, I didn't want to be under a license or a franchise or whatever it is. I wanted to do my own thing.
I've got Facebook followers. Yeah.
And even back then as well, like looking back, like I had no idea how to run a business. No idea. I was quite confident with my coaching ability, but I had no idea how to run a business, lead a team, run a business, something that, I could eventually go away on a holiday for 2 weeks and it still pay my bills.
Yeah, not just have to tell your clients you'll be back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, not just a job.
Yeah. Okay, so what sort of toll did learning these lessons take on you?
I think it was a shock. Initially, I remember opening the gym. Obviously got investment at this point. It was a client of mine, really good friends. We went in on the gym. And I remember initially, like a few months in, having like a little bit of a mini meltdown, a little breakdown, just overwhelmed with all these things that I had no idea what to do.
What, like bills to pay and...
Yeah, bills to pay, extra additional costs that a gym has, which, my overheads when I was a personal trainer was just rent and insurance. That's it. And I remember just almost having this meltdown of not knowing how to do all these things within running a business.
And what does that do to you? Tell me about the meltdown.
Yeah, I remember it just being like just this feeling of just overwhelmed with the pressure of growing this business.
Is it feeding itself at this point?
At this point as well, it was a good start because I was, a local personal trainer. I brought, quite a few clients with me. So I was very sort of fortunate to have that to begin with.
So you've got a business that's wiping its own face. Mm. Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't, at that point, it wasn't like financial difficulty but when you've done something so public, like open a gym, you've put your neck on the chopping block as well.
Especially if you've taken it as that leap, like you said, from an ego perspective, it needs to work.
Yeah. And, as much as people want to see you succeed, there's a lot of people that want to see you fail as well.
So what was like the biggest mistake you made in that period?
Biggest mistake, when we, opened the company, the equipment was the biggest mistake.
Right.
So I worked with this company. I worked on this like completely side topic, this mini festival. I attempted to run like a fitness festival, but anyway, trusted this company. They were really, really helpful with like, you can use the equipment, just put the branding on like your social media and stuff. Brilliant, really nice company to work with. So had good trust with this company. And then when it comes to open the gym, I was like, look, you're my go-to guys because, I trust you. We're going to put all the money in your hands. You're going to kit out the gym. So I remember handing this money over. Literally, it was a bank transfer, which in hindsight is just giving like someone cash. There's no invoice, nothing. It's just a bank transfer.
Up front.
And I remember this equipment company, I had this unit sitting there. By then I left my gym, so I had no source of income. And I remember in this unit, they were like, we're coming down tonight to fit it out. They don't turn up. And emergencies come up when the kid's ill or whatever. You're like, okay, no problem. Come in tomorrow. Tomorrow, no one shows up. Third day, someone shows up. You think, right, great, it's happening. And then, you go back 2 hours later, they're gone. And you're thinking, what is going on here? What have I done? And then literally at that point as well, their company folded, disappeared.
They make off with your money.
Make off the money. And that was definitely one of the biggest mistakes.
That's a sharp lesson in business. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a shock.
Doing your due diligence on companies and, purchase orders and paying on delivery.
Yeah.
Or minor upfront payments rather than whole upfront payments. Okay. So that's got to be pretty stressful to a guy with no income, an empty unit and no clients to put in there. How does that... Are you keeping your own training going? Are you?
I think at that point as well, when you have that degree of stress, everything just falls by the wayside. Everything.
Tell me.
I just, I remember even like just sitting in this cold unit in like November, just thinking, what on earth have I done? Like I've just left a job where, I'm well respected, I'm earning good money. Now I'm just sitting in a unit here with nothing.
What did your friends and family have to say?
I mean, my family were very supportive. My mum, I could do anything and she'd be proud. So her opinion is a bit invalid because I could do absolutely anything and she's proud. But that time it was very lonely.
Okay.
Incredibly lonely.
And does that start to carry over into your relationships and your social life?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at that point as well, I found myself going home and like start drinking.
Okay.
On like a Tuesday or Wednesday. Got no work to do. Just waiting around.
Do you feel like you have purpose?
At that point I thought, no.
Okay.
I thought I'm done for you. I can't go back to my old gym. Cut ties there. I'm a bit of a firm believer. Sometimes it's quite good to burn your bridges sometimes.
Right, okay.
Because then you've got an option to go back and you've just got to move forward with things.
Yeah, something I discussed with Jordan before, which was, burning the boats.
Yeah.
So you've burned the boats at your old job and here you are on the island with no fitness equipment.
Yeah.
Okay. What turns it around for you?
So at that point as well, we do things like go through like small claims court and whatnot, and we do recuperate some money, but then a lot of it I had to put in as personal money as well. So use like all like life savings at that point, going into the gym just to get
now it's really got to work.
Has to work. But then, business does go well. It grows. It grows and grows and grows. And then, we're talking about a few years down the line, then the pandemic hits.
So yeah, you've got this to a point where you're managing your business quite nicely. Your personal life has changed a bit.
Yeah, most definitely at that point.
But you comfortable?
Yeah, at that point I did go through a big breakup with my partner at the time. We were engaged. And, hands up, I wasn't the best boyfriend. Not at all. But we were just two separate different people.
Right. It wasn't the business detracting from the relationship. You just were different people.
It was different people. We were going in different directions. I felt very much alone with the business. And yeah, it was just the right thing to not get married at that point as well.
Oh, that's very respectable. And does that impact your business or does that spur it on?
It spurs me on.
Okay.
I think as well, now we're going into a different chapter. And, within my business, I met my current fiancée, Sarah. And it almost like starts a brand new life as well.
Okay. And the business runs smoothly and then we reach the pandemic.
Yeah. The thing is about the pandemic, God, looking back, no one had a clue what on earth they were doing back then. Really. No clue. And, especially within like gym and fitness, they were like one of the first
things to go. I do recall.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, we've built this business up for 2 years, had a good membership base, great members on board. What do we do now? And it's like, what way do we pivot to keep the business going?
Yeah. So the gyms get shut.
Yeah.
And you're left in a position where you've got to close the business that you've been working to build to this point for the last few years. Tell me about that week.
I remember that week doing this, I think when it was announced on a Friday night, it was getting shut down. I remember doing a workout in the gym with the members and it being like the most emotional workout. It was so weird. And we knew we weren't all coming back tomorrow. And from that point when we had to go into like the first initial lockdown, it made me realise how much I missed just being around people and around people at that gym at that point. But I don't think the challenging lockdown was until, I think it was like the winter lockdown. And that was one of the hardest for sure.
Okay. That's interesting. I want to just put a pin in that, something that you hadn't mentioned before, which was, you enjoyed being with people. You are a people person. And that looks like that comes far more naturally to you than, say, business. Like your character, your personality is very much rooted around being a listener, remembering a lot about people. I remember thinking not long after I met you, like, this guy's got an insane ability to remember people and to give people time to feel valued as a member. Like, where do you think that came from?
I think I personally find people very interesting. And I love building relationships with people. It's, even like when someone joins the gym, I have to say their name over and over and over again every time I see them, so their name sticks. I always pride myself on like knowing everyone's name. But with business, I personally was think as well, if you invest in people, as cheesy as it sounds, they'll always invest in you.
And do you have this same people-centric approach outside of your like professional capacity?
I'd like to think so. I'm probably more introverted outside of the workplace.
Yeah.
Because I think being in that sort of environment, I'm very social, very upbeat. And I think sometimes, obviously, like social situations, I'm probably a bit quieter than what people actually probably think I am as well. Just because sometimes being in a different environment other than the gym can make me feel a bit uneasy sometimes. Like if we go to a party and there's big groups of people, I'm not actually as good as what people think. I'm not like life and soul for the party, but you might.
I'm thinking, how does this does link back to wanting to be the big bodybuilder, wanting to be the big time Charlie local famous PT, the introvert in you that is seeking the approval of people. So, I do not assume, but I have seen you very naturally talk with people, and I think it's quite an admirable skill. But it sounds like it's something you have to work on, or it's quite natural.
I think initially I had to work on it to begin with, but now it's natural. You know, I've done it enough, and you know, I've probably been quite guilty in the past, especially in business, being quite a people pleaser.
Okay.
Just saying yes to everything, and you know, just whatever, that's fine. But you know, further down the line, you do realise that isn't a great skill to always have, being a people pleaser.
There's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah, there needs to be boundaries in place as well. But yeah, especially as being a personal trainer, you can be a bit like that. But as a business owner, you can't be like that.
Okay. So you get the business going, and like you said, you meet your current fiance at the gym, and she is with you during this pandemic period.
Yeah.
How different is it to have a partner with you during this testing time compared to before, where you said you felt quite alone in your previous relationship?
Yeah, I think with Sarah, the relationship is different to previous relationships. You know, we always want to do everything together, genuinely want to do a lot of things together. I mean, we've just been on the hen and stag do as a sten, but we enjoy being around each other all the time as well. You know, we're friends, best friends, as well as being in a relationship. So during the pandemic, having that support was next to none. You know, with me wanting to be around people all the time and not having somewhere to go and having purpose, and my God, running them Zoom sessions. I mean, they've done a job, but my God.
It's not charging your batteries, it's not floating your boat.
No, not at all.
So coming out of the pandemic, you make a bit of a decision within your business life. And this is a tough time to be making these sorts of decisions.
Most definitely.
So tell us a bit about what happens next.
So we come out of the pandemic and, you know, with the business, a business partner who's like a best friend at that point as well. And I think we just want different things from the business. So I decide to buy the business.
And how does he take this?
And initially, well, at first.
Yeah. You know, if you're best friends, he wants what's best for you. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. And then, like, you know, with a lot of like businesses when they break up as well, you know, things can turn differently, as it were. And then eventually we did fall out, which...
That's a shame.
It was a very, very sad time. You know, because this guy had been my friend for absolute years, as well as obviously believed in me.
Gave you a chance, yeah.
Gave him my chance, and I'll always be grateful for that as well. I don't want to ever think that, you know, I'm ungrateful for that. And I'm obviously sad how it ended. But during that point was probably one of the most testing times of my adult life.
Because you're fighting for your business, you're fighting to buy your business.
Yep.
It sounds like you're not talking to your best friend. That's got
Yeah, there's a big hole there already. Even buying my first house at this point, and that was stressful because obviously being, you know, like self-employed, buying a house during COVID when you're self-employed, you know, it couldn't go all fall through at this point as well. It was
a fair loss of revenue during that period as well.
Yeah, scary. And during this time as well, I should mention my partner Sarah. She had cervical cancer when she was 25. So her chance of carrying children is very low. And she got pregnant during this time. And we had to make the decision, unfortunately, to abort because we didn't want to risk her life.
Because of the dangers of carrying.
Exactly.
So that's got to weigh pretty heavy on you.
Yeah, it was one of them situations you thought you'd never been in your life, where you've got all these things going on at the same time.
How did you feel even before that moment? Because you must have, looking back to the supplements and testosterone, you must have thought this was, and knowing Sarah's history with cervical cancer, you must have thought this wasn't an option.
Yeah, it totally was an option. I mean, after hammering the steroids for years, all from my late 20s and stuff, My sperm count was like non-existent,
So when you find out that Sarah had fell pregnant, this was an against the odds pregnancy.
Yeah.
It must be hard to understand how you have to make this decision to choose.
Yeah. And the things were both quite maternal as well. So that was a big way up. But it did come down to, I didn't want to risk, and Sarah didn't want to risk her life for that.
And how do you move on from that?
I think that time was just very turbulent with everything that was going on, buying the business, the house and the abortion. And I think for, 6 months after that, it just embedded myself into work.
Is that a coping strategy?
Most definitely.
Put your head down.
Yeah.
Try and avoid the thought of it?
I think there was, that's fair to say. Try and avoid the thought of it as well.
So what changed? You've now taken the time to tell me. So how did you come to terms with this period in your life?
So I think during then as well, with me and Sarah, I had to feel like I had to be really strong for her. Because, as much as it was a joint decision, it's her body. So I had to feel like I was really strong and be there for her. So, during this time, it was almost not like I say, not burying the feelings, but maybe not coming to full terms with them feelings. And it's not like it's resurfaces. I have to think I cope with them in my own way. And then it still weighs heavy on my heart, that period of time. Personally, it taught me a lot of resilience. It taught me like life is bigger than this sometimes.
Yeah. And that you've had this period where you're having to deal with that on a personal and health level in your relationship.
Yeah.
A troubled relationship with your business partner that's exiting from the company. The stress of moving a house, which is disastrous anyway. The worldwide pandemic.
Mm.
How long does it take you to re-rally, and how do you keep that personal stress from impacting what you're delivering day to day to your membership?
I'll just make sure when you're working in service, no matter what is going on in your life, you cannot let it impact what you're doing.
And does that drain you?
Oh, most definitely. Being absolutely exhausted all the time.
What recharged you?
What recharged me was putting more time and effort into the business, if I'm being honest. Taking it down a certain path. That definitely gave me a new lease of life when it come to being, an entrepreneur, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Helped me develop new skills.
Skills for, because you mentioned resilience, but what skills?
I think the skills to realise that when you do have these like tough points in your life, and everyone has tough points in their life, whether they lose a sibling, a parent, or whatever it may be, is to kind of dig yourself out of that situation, as tough as it is at the time, but you have to move forward.
Yeah, okay.
And not to say just brush it past, but you have to constantly move forward.
I think that's a great note. You have to understand that you have to be present in where you are. You have to feel your feelings. You have to live life as it's being presented to you.
Yeah.
But you always have to be looking for more, looking for next. And being where your feet are is important. It's how you enjoy life, not just constantly strive for the next things, but it's the tough things that make the good, when you're in the present, in the good times, that make them feel good.
Mm.
So do you look back on that period of time with gratitude for what it taught you, or how do you view it?
Yeah, I look it back as a really sad time, really, really sad time. But learning the lessons for what I learned then has definitely made me just more resilient in life.
Yeah.
That nothing's that bad compared to that. It may be in the future, something awful might happen to me.
But like you say, life is chapters, and that's one of them in a longer series of many more chapters, many of which are positive, happy growth stories.
And I've seen sometimes, with family members, it really eats away at them for the rest of their life. With my stepfather, he lost his daughter when she was 18. And it sent him on a downward spiral.
Just couldn't deal with it.
Couldn't deal with it. And still isn't dealing with it today. And he's not the man he used to be.
It's a terrible shame.
Yeah. And it unfortunately can wreck relationships around you if you're not careful and think people that are important to you.
But have you used his example as a way to not say learn not how to deal with it, but learn from what he's done so that you can take your own steps forward?
Most definitely.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I like that. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
So what does get you through that period?
What does get me through that period, actually, I got through that period. I decided to get a mentor and teach me how to run an online business.
Okay.
So from there, I guess I'm learning systems and processes that apply online, but then later on I can apply to the existing business. Start online coaching during that point as well. And teaches me other ways to be successful as well as keep this gym afloat on top of that.
Start learning ways of being creative with your business.
Exactly that.
Okay. So is there anything, I'm thinking of something in particular, I think it's a testament to your people skills in that a lot of your members retained their membership during that period. And I think that goes to what you said about creating community and leadership. How do you create a culture like that?
I think as well with a community. I'm even thinking back to when I was even bodybuilding, there was a community to a degree. And I do believe, if someone belongs to a form of community in any shape or form, they're more likely to sustain something, keep a habit, like yourself. Somewhere where someone can go and have, like-minded people around them. And it was really important with Sisu to create a genuine community. It gets thrown around a lot, community, but generally make everyone feel welcome, no matter of their fitness ability, their, what they've done previously, and make them feel like they want to be part of it.
Okay, yeah. So, speaking from my own experience on it, it was, I wanted to continue paying my membership, not just because we're friends, but I wanted it to be there when the pandemic was over.
Exactly that.
I need this place as much as it as a business needs me.
Yeah.
And yeah, could I go to another functional gym? Yeah, probably. But that's not where I've chosen to rest my head. And I think creating those communities, or for me, it's like creating those teams where people want to be of service to each other, is what pushes organisations onto that next level. And I find it in the teams I lead is that I don't want to let them down. I want to give them the room to grow, to be themselves, to find their best versions of themselves. And in service of that, I have to do the same. And I can only imagine in a business like yours, which demands coaching, that people are there to be better.
Yeah.
What does that do for you? How do you be better?
I mean, the way I look at being better is I've got to just turn up every day. I've got to make sure people are welcome within our community. They feel like they're, progressing, striving, and they want to be there. And quite interesting. Ask that question again, Jack, actually.
Well, actually, I might go from a different thing. What you said there was, you said, turn up every day. And what I heard there was, I have to be better than yesterday. Every day you get an opportunity to come in and be 1% better. And you're running a business in the service industry. So people depend on the service.
Yep.
And people will notice if that service drops off. So, by coming in and do what you do, it is about becoming better. But does that cross over into your personal goals? You ran a marathon last year, this year?
Yeah. Last year. I think it's like one of the only ones in October, which was very fortunate for the training. But yeah, I mean, like personal achievements, as it were.
How do you be better?
Yeah,
I don't mind how you want to approach it.
I think sometimes the way I look at like these things, like marathon and competing and stuff, they're almost not irrelevant to me what the actual context of them are. It's just doing the act. For me, I really like choosing things I am not very good at. Like marathon, like if I look back like 5 years ago, I couldn't even run like 5K without stopping.
This was the guy that got into fitness from running.
Originally, and then kind of went
got
360.
Jacked.
Got jacked.
Couldn't move.
Couldn't wipe my own arse and then. But yeah, for me, I think like I've always quite enjoyed competing. Even when in my CrossFit days, I enjoyed competing. At that point, I wasn't particularly too good at it.
Is that fair to say? Or did you make it to a fairly reasonable standard?
Oh, yeah, like once. Yeah, once. But I was always probably a bit too thick set for CrossFit. Okay. I was very good at the lifting, just terrible at everything else.
But I've seen you compete, and I think that you do very well.
Thank you.
And I think you have a competition head. Where does that come from?
I think it really stems from almost going back to the whole bodybuilding thing, isn't it? Like trying to be the best bodybuilder. Right. Then I want to be the best PT, and then I want the best gym. And it does carry over into those things. And there's a point of, obviously, it would be lying if it wasn't a little bit of ego. But just the act of doing something and really going to that limit is very addictive for me.
Why didn't that apply to judo?
Because at that point, I didn't have someone pushing me over the line. And there was...
Who's pushing you now?
I think Sarah probably pushes me a lot.
She wasn't at Battle of the Beast, though.
She wasn't at Battle of the Beast.
So that was partly you.
That was partly me, correct. I think as well, developing this like drive has definitely come later in life, like yourself. Back then, I probably would have given up a little bit too easy at things and, got like with the gym equipment, fallen at the first hurdle and be like, no, it's not happening, going back to work, doing this and that. But yeah, it's just, I guess, developing this like internal drive to always be a little bit better. I mean, it was like with the gym, I'm always like trying to collab with, like turf games or, you're wearing one of the t-shirts at the moment, with like clothing companies.
And tinkering things to improve it.
Always.
Put things, even just moving something from one end of the gym to the other to make the space flow better. Yeah,
exactly. I think as well, if you're stationary, you're going backwards rather than forwards.
Okay. So the competition head is something that you apply to yourself in your being better every day?
100%. If I don't have something booked, I turn into a lazy fuck.
Okay. What have you got booked?
So I've got High Rocks this November. Done it last year. Thought it'd be really good. Coming off a marathon, thought right, High Rocks. If those guys don't know, it's 50% running practically, isn't it?
Yeah.
Went into High Rocks, had an eye opener.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can sympathise. I did it 3 months later and had the same eye opener.
Yeah. So, going back to not be a world champion or anything like that, just to bet on my own time. Maybe beat Jordan if I can as well, would be nice.
So that desire to grow, is that also in your business?
Yeah, most definitely. I'm always looking what is next, what are the next steps. I'm not a big 5-year plan sort of guy, because the pandemic proved that 5-year plans can just be thrown out the window in like a second.
Yeah, they can. So what is it, if it's not like fixed plans of, I want 2 gyms or I want online clubs, what is it you're trying to build?
So I want to build something that is a brand. More importantly, that's one reason why I haven't gone down like affiliation and licensing and things like that with, things like CrossFit, because I want to build a brand that people recognize. I want to build a brand that is, nationwide. And who knows at that point? I literally don't think that far forward beyond that.
No, and that's fair, because you can have a vision for the future, but you don't achieve your vision by shooting at that. You have to take the steps each day to be better than yesterday.
Yep.
To get to that next thing. So that daily discipline of being better is something that you can see in all walks of life. It's neglecting to have the biscuits because you've got the High Rocks. It's turning down the beer because I want to be on form for work in the morning.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that you're intentional with all your actions. Still turning up for your social life.
We're saying that, funny enough, last night, we're filming this on a Saturday, and we had a party last night. And same thing, what you just said. Saturday's a really busy day in the gym. And I think I want to create loads of hype. People are dying to be there on Saturday. On like a weekend where a lot of people maybe won't go to the gym at the weekend.
The big one.
It's the big one. So intentionally didn't drink any alcohol, because I thought I want to be on absolute top form this morning for all them paying members and make sure they have the best experience when they come in that gym.
I like that. I always hear it when Bergeron says it, and he says the gym is the best hour of someone's day.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's your job to put that on a plate for them and serve it to them.
Yeah, if someone walks in, they've had a crap day at work, they've had shit in their life or whatever that may look like, they want to leave with a smile on their face.
How does that motivate you to provide that service? What is it about? Because it's influencing lives. Is that something that you consider?
Yeah, I think quite subconsciously. I don't purposely think I want to try and really influence this person's life today to sort of turn them around. But like I said, going to something like the gym, a really enjoyable experience, because, a lot of people will go to a gym, they will dread it, they put it off, they won't do it. I want people to turn up, like not every day, but, a good few times a week as well, and really, really look forward to it.
So where does this chapter end? What do you achieve in this chapter, and where does the next chapter go?
Oh, that's a tough question, man. Like,
break it down.
Yeah, this chapter, I think the next chapter would be, for me personally, and say the business and my personal growth, would be just taking the next step, the next gym, like the real growth. Mm-hmm. I feel like we're in a phase of really making sure what we've done at Sisu is on point. All the systems and processes and everything's in place in order to grow.
Okay. So this chapter ends with your current business thriving, your coaching staff operating not independently, but within the parameters you've set out from your systems.
Yep.
And you're due to get married very soon.
Yeah, only 6 months away.
6 months away. And then you go into your next chapter.
Yeah, maybe even another marathon.
Maybe even another marathon.
Maybe.
I think that shouldn't be ruled out. Like I said, doing hard stuff is what builds character. And I'm finding it at the moment with trying to prep for high rocks and prepping for the high rocks after that, which is I'm losing battles every day getting ready for it. I am not a natural hard worker. I see some of these guys, Jordan, McCann, Rich Harris, they're not going to miss a workout. Foddy, he's not going to miss a workout.
Incredibly disciplined men, all of them.
They don't find that hard. Today, it took me 3 hours to get to my running intervals. It was a battle that I just kept losing. I find it hard. I find it a struggle. It's why I will forever play amateur level sports. And because, I'm old as shit now as well. But I like the challenge. I like that I lose these battles sometimes. I have bad training days. I have bad training days more often than I would care to admit. In previous years, I used to be a bat thrower at cricket or a glove thrower in football, and I'd have the tantrums. I don't have tantrums now. I've grown up a little bit.
Yeah, they're becoming less frequent, I will say.
I've been known to quit a workout.
But then you go back in. You have that 10 seconds when, old Jack is there and you flip back in.
Yeah, you have to find a bit of composure, and, that is a bit of maturity. But I don't have the talent or the discipline. And I'm always reminded in life of that phrase where hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And I have spent a large portion of my life being a talented player that didn't work very hard.
Okay.
That was at school, at work, and I've decided to confront it head on. You've done that. You've started a business. You've decided there's no option but to work hard when you've got a business. It's all on the line. I've always had a good job. I've always done a good job. I've never really truly sold out. I did for a period of time, and my health went to absolute pieces. I was, a 106 kilo man that got winded at the top of the stairs and wouldn't warm up for a football match because he wouldn't run to the other side of the pitch. So I now try to look at challenge as a way of keeping me honest, keeping me humble, and it's my way of being better day to day.
So what's your thought process as well, Jack? When, like you say, you didn't want to go out for the run this morning, do you delay it a little bit? But what actually tips you to go out and do it?
I think about the shame of losing. Yeah. I'm hard on myself. I have a very, very simple, far more dumbed down version of Michael Jordan's, I don't know if in the
shots quote,
in that documentary about the Last Dance, the Bulls, and he makes up these stories about people that have got like a beef with him, people that have been rude to him, so that he wants to dunk on them.
Yeah, like annihilate them on the court.
I have fake enemies. Yeah, people that don't even know who I am, and I just imagine racing them. I imagine beating them. It's not going to make me a world champion, but it keeps me somewhat honest. It's effective to a point. It keeps me on the straight and narrow, but it hasn't pushed me to like a next level. I don't have the drive for a next level. I'm a social sportsman.
I agree with you on that as well with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when, we're talking about your sport life and your work life, I think it's very hard to push both envelopes at the same time. You have to decide which vehicle you're going to go down a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. And trying to test myself is one of the reasons I started this podcast. Yeah, taking myself out of my comfort zone. I am an introvert. I'm more of an introvert than you. Yeah. And given the chance to be a wallflower and the listener, I'll take it. So this is teaching me new skills. It's forcing me to dig deep, get uncomfortable. And the hardest thing, at the moment from the episodes you've seen, it's all right. I'm talking to friends. I'm getting to that point now where I have to start talking to people that I don't know.
Yeah.
And that for me is terrifying. But I know that growth doesn't occur in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And so you have to get out of it. And I would rather do it here than in the shame of doing another High Rocks in what must be one of the slowest times recorded. So we're working towards improving that as well. I'm thinking giving individual pro another go late next year.
Yeah, I think like even just in the podcast, doing like an individual High Rocks, they're almost putting your neck on the chopping block.
Yeah, you've got to put your ass on show.
As we discussed, I think previously as well, Jack, putting a podcast out, it's opened up to a lot of people being very supportive, but there's also going to be people who are going to criticise it as well.
Yeah.
And that's very hard to come to terms with.
It is, and I've not come from a world that really has public criticism. I work in construction. Yeah, we don't have much public criticism. It's not a on social media or in the public domain sort of job. We just work to specifications and things like that. So this is a whole new world for me. I'm not a social media person. I'm not a natural networker and a life of the party sort of guy. So I am growing, but I am struggling. It is hard.
We've done a very good job.
Is there anything you would like to any closing remarks you want to make?
See, I think listening to your previous podcast as well, you always ask people to leave you on like a quote or something. I think Jordan done one about Bake Off, so I can't top the Bake Off quote.
Bake Off.
Yeah, Jordan said, time with Bake Off. No, but that was a good quote. Really, really simple quote. Something I've always followed, and that is just like nothing is for nothing. I think anything that's worth doing in life, it's always going to be hard, but the reward is so good.
Yeah, I like that. It's similar to the Matthew McConaughey one where, whatever you do, don't half-arse it.
That's it.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed this conversation. I think even I've learned some bits about you, and I can see the young lad suffering with the divorce of his parents, quitting at judo, and how that can lead you down a life of steroid abuse, drug abuse, the Champagne Charlie effect. You're proving, I don't need a male role model. I'm my own male role model. And then seeing you constructively channel that into building a bricks and mortar business, and then saying that's not enough. I want more. I want better every day. That is my big takeaway. That is what this conversation was for me. Seeing a guy take that and use it as purposeful energy for good effect and not the sort that can set you back in life. So please, keep doing hard stuff. Keep me honest. I'll keep doing hard stuff too. And let's, continue to grow, my man.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Where can people find you?
Find me at Coach_Grimmy, I forget it was underscore, on Instagram, and follow the page Sisu Fitness UK.
And your bricks and mortar business is?
We're in Medway City Estate in Rochester, technically. So come and find us. Historic Rochester.
Wicked. Thank you very much. It's been a very wholesome conversation. Thank you very much, mate.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.